What if I told you there's a town in Europe that vanished from maps after World War II? A town cursed by silence, shadowed by legends, and whispered about in Vatican archives. No, this isn't fiction. And what you're seeing on screen isn't just a horror game. It's eerily close to something real. While we explore the spine-chilling paths of Resident Evil Village, let me take you on a journey through a story that's equally haunting. A story buried in history, soaked in mystery, and echoing with the cries of the unknown. In 1947, deep in the Carpathian Mountains, there existed a secluded village named Viscovia. No roads led to it. It wasn't on any official record. Only the locals knew the paths, and they never shared them. It was a self-sustaining place. Woodcutters, shepherds, and old-world herbalists. Nothing unusual until, one night, villagers started hearing a low humming from beneath the ground. They thought it was seismic activity, but then people began to disappear. No signs of struggle, no blood, just gone. Children vanished from their beds. Elders turned mute, and then came the mass dream. Yes, a shared dream experienced by every remaining soul in the village. A woman in black, eyes hollow like dried riverbeds, whispering, "The ground hungers." Much like in Resident Evil Village, strange symbols began appearing. One on a barn door looked identical to an ancient Sumerian sigil. That's right, the same used in exorcisms and forbidden rituals. And here's the kicker. In 1953, a Vatican missionary journal surfaced mentioning Viscovia. It claimed the village was a spiritual hotspot of pre-Christian demonic energy, and that an emergency exorcism team had been sent. But they never came back. To this day, there's no evidence the village existed, except a blurry aerial shot from a Cold War spy, planes showing structures beneath dense fog. Imagine this. Your grandmother telling you a bedtime story about a village that eats people. You laugh. You forget. Then one night, you hear humming from your basement. As we move deeper into Resident Evil Village, the parallels are unsettling. Rotting homes, haunted churches, shadows that move when you're not looking. Are we playing a game or walking through a warning dressed as fiction? Did you know over 1,200 towns and villages have gone missing in recorded history? Some due to floods, others? No explanation, just traces, eerie journal entries, and sometimes a final SOS written in dust. There's one final detail about Viscovia that sends chills even now. Locals claimed if you stood at the edge of the forest and whispered its name 3 times, you'd hear a voice whisper back. They didn't say what it whispered, only that no one who heard it ever slept peacefully again. In 2007, a rogue expedition tried to find Viscovia. They disappeared. All but one man returned. He had no memory, just one phrase tattooed on his forearm. The roots remember. But what if that wasn't just paranoia? What if that man, Marcus Hale, a linguistics expert from Oxford, was actually onto something? Weeks before the expedition, Marcus had become obsessed with an ancient text called the Codex Umbra, a forbidden manuscript locked away since the 1700s, rumored to have driven 5 priests to madness. It spoke of places that resonate with the under-echo, whatever that means, and named Viscovia among them. His wife later told investigators that he'd stopped sleeping. He drew crude maps on their bedroom wall, and the night before he left, he kissed her and said, "If the earth speaks, I'll listen." But here's the kicker. After Marcus was found and hospitalized, every file, every note, every word of the Codex Umbra was suddenly erased from the public archive. Even his personal journals disappeared. Why? Who would want to erase his findings? Now, here's where it gets even darker. A declassified NATO report from 1961 described a zone of silence near the Carpathians. Radios failed, compass needles spun, and there were heat signatures under the earth, moving like arteries. One scout called them roots. Another called them tentacles of the land. Sound familiar? In Resident Evil Village. What if the underground networks aren't fictional at all? What if they're dramatizations of an actual place the world has chosen to forget? And now, pay attention. This next part may haunt you. In a local Romanian museum, a faded tapestry shows villagers kneeling before a shadowy figure with no face. Its hands are stretched outward, and beneath them, human figures dissolving into the ground. Beneath the tapestry, a line of ancient Latin reads, Terra devorat memoria. The earth devours memory. What if Viscovia didn't just vanish physically, but spiritually? Not destroyed, just erased. And like Ethan Winters in Resident Evil, we're wandering through the after images of a truth humanity was never meant to see. The man was later identified as Ezekiel Reed, a cryptologist and folklorist. After weeks of hospitalization, his memory began to flicker back in fragments. He drew cryptic symbols on the walls of his room. One of them, almost identical to what appears in Resident Evil Village, was a circle of thorns enclosing a single eye. He spoke of a staircase in the woods, not built of wood or stone, but of bones winding downwards into the earth like a spiral. He said it led to something alive, something older than language. He called it the listener. Reed's story was dismissed by the media as trauma-induced psychosis. But 2 weeks later, he vanished again, left his hospital bed barefoot. The only clue left behind? A tape recorder under his pillow. On it, his voice, and something else, low humming, and the sound of soil shifting. In 1992, a team of spelunkers stumbled upon an underground cathedral system beneath the Carpathians. No known entrance from above. Inside were rusted bells, each one inscribed with Latin verses warning of the sleeping roots. Geologists couldn't explain the anomaly. The stone was older than the surrounding bedrock, and yet, hanging on one of the pillars was a leather satchel. Inside, photographs of Viscovia, children, church services, and a priest holding a crucifix backwards. Over the years, hikers in Romania have reported a strange, deafening silence near where Viscovia was rumored to exist. No birds, no insects, as if the air itself was holding its breath. One hiker, an American tourist named Brian Calloway, claimed to have seen a figure in the mist, a woman in black. When he called out to her, she lifted her hand, and suddenly he woke up at the base of the trail, with mud-covered shoes and no memory of how he got there. The kicker? His phone, last photo taken, showed an empty village in the mist, and a single word scrawled on a rotted wooden sign. Viscovia. Pay attention as we move through this part of the game. These details aren't just aesthetic, they carry weight. The churches, the symbols, the sense of lost time. Developers claim inspiration from European folklore, but the specificity is unsettling, down to the exact layout of shrines, the positioning of runes, even the presence of mothers guarding dark secrets. Coincidence? Or someone slipping the truth into our fiction? In a declassified CIA document from the Cold War era, there's a redacted section titled Phenomena, Village Shadow Zone. The coordinates? Just miles from where Viscovia was rumored to be. It mentions auditory hallucinations, unexplained disappearances, and something called the Whispering Loop, an audio frequency that causes vivid dreams of burial and roots. Sound familiar? Because the soundtrack in Resident Evil Village contains a similar frequency, barely audible, but some players have reported nightmares after extended gameplay. Not convinced? A Reddit thread from 2021 detailed a user who played the game in VR and woke up with dirt under their fingernails. In Appalachian folklore, there's a legend of a village swallowed by the mountain, never found again. Locals called it the root cellar. Same pattern. Dreams. Humming. A woman in black. Different continent. Same story. Which begs the question, are these regional myths? Or do they point to something universal we keep forgetting and then remembering? So, when you walk through that eerie graveyard in Resident Evil Village, think beyond the screen. Because somewhere under a canopy of trees, no one maps anymore. There just might be another Viscovia, still breathing, still waiting. But here's where things get even stranger. One survivor of the Viscovia incident, a man named Garrett Vale, had been completely silent for 15 years after escaping the village. He was institutionalized, labeled as delusional, and his records were sealed. But in 2012, just a year before his death, Garrett began speaking again. And what he said shook the staff at Ashenbrook Hospital to their core. According to leaked notes from one of the nurses, Garrett didn't talk like a madman. He spoke clearly, calmly, and with terrifying detail. He claimed the villagers weren't just being influenced by an ancient artifact. They were being prepared. Prepared for what? Emerging. Garrett described dreams where the barrier between our world and another began to fracture. He saw people walking backwards, speaking in tongues, walls bleeding, symbols no one could translate. He insisted that Viscovia was a test site, that it wasn't the first, and it wouldn't be the last. He drew diagrams, portals, circular altars. He even mentioned something eerily familiar, a mother mold. Now, if you're a Resident Evil fan, that phrase probably just gave you chills, because the mother mold is the origin of the megamycete, the root of the mind hive that controls, corrupts, and manipulates. But Garrett mentioned it in 2012, years before Resident Evil Village was even released. Was Capcom tapping into urban legends they thought were fiction? Or did someone tip them off? Now here's where it spirals. Shortly before his death, Garrett whispered one final sentence to a visiting journalist. You think you're watching the game, but the game is watching you. That journalist vanished a week later, her apartment untouched, her notes missing, only a single word scrawled in black ink across her wall. Viscovia, a ghost town in California with an abandoned church that looks almost identical to the one in Viscovia. Coincidence? Let's dig even deeper. In 1999, USA government satellites captured strange heat blooms in the forest around that same Viscovia church. Some claimed it was geothermal activity. Others believed it was a massive underground structure awakening. And the last known ranger to patrol that forest, Elise Romero, filed a report stating she heard chanting underground and saw a woman dressed in all black floating 2 feet above the ground. That report? Buried. Elise disappeared, and the church sealed off under structural instability, despite no earthquakes or erosion in the area. Are you starting to see the pattern? Whether it's Viscovia, Visalia, or the fictional village in Resident Evil, the signs all point to something ancient, something intelligent, and something still very much active. Now here's the twist. In 2023, A deep-sea research drone exploring an uncharted trench off the coast of Romania sent back strange footage. Stone steps, carved in a spiral, descending into the ocean floor, and etched on those stones? The same symbols found in Viscovia. The same symbols found in the Resident Evil art book. And one more thing, the audio log from a drone ended with a strange, repeating sound. Not mechanical, not natural. It was humming. A low, feminine hum, like a lullaby. The same tune Garrett Vale used to hum every night before falling asleep. So ask yourself, are these connections just fan fiction run wild? Or are we seeing pieces of a bigger truth scattered across media, myths, and memory? Resident Evil might have just pulled the curtain back on something we weren't supposed to see. Because what if the monsters in the game were inspired by witness testimonies? What if Capcom wasn't just inventing horror? What if they were warnings, dressed up as entertainment? And what if Viscovia is just one of many forgotten places, still pulsing with life that shouldn't exist? And just when you think it can't get darker, a sealed letter from an unnamed Vatican archivist surfaced online last year. In it, he claimed that certain forbidden texts referenced a blood village in the East, a place where souls were not born, but harvested. Guess what name was scribbled in the margins? Viscovia. He warned, it's not a location, it's a doorway. Now, how would an ancient religious document even know about this village? Unless it wasn't ancient fiction, but ancient memory. Passed down, covered up, and only now starting to leak through the cracks into games, stories, dreams. So before you dismiss this all as coincidence, ask yourself, what if the game is just the surface layer? And the truth lies just one level deeper? Now ask yourself, why do these stories keep surfacing? Are they just echoes of human fear? Or are they breadcrumbs pointing towards something we're not ready to see? Maybe Resident Evil isn't as fictional as we want to believe. So next time you walk into an old barn, hear humming in the dark, or dream of a woman in black, just remember Viscovia and ask yourself, is the game imitating life? Or is life trying to warn us through the game? If this story got under your skin, don't keep it to yourself. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm gods. Subscribe for more chilling stories behind the gameplay. And comment below. If a place like Viscovia truly existed, would you dare to visit? Stay curious, stay cautious, and remember, some stories stay hidden for a reason.